I mean, I don't know if it was like this when you sent your sounds to me for me to make a track. I wasn't expecting a beat like this to come back. When I listened to this, I wasn't bored for a second. You know, like
Exactly.
that's what you aim for, I think. Like you've done a great job with that.
I believe very strongly in the idea that sometimes you need to use boundaries in order to fuel your creativity. And as a producer in this modern era, we have every sound at our fingertips, and yet we still don't know which direction to take sometimes and what sounds to use to help the song be the best it can be. So I called up a producer colleague of mine named Jack. He's a pop producer based in the UK, and we wanted to collaborate on something that would challenge both of us and make us better producers. So what better way to do this than to swap sounds? He gave me a selection of presets from his free Serum preset pack, and I cooked up some of my own to give to him, and we told each other, make a track, do it in one afternoon, and use only sounds from these packs except for drums and vocals if you want to use vocals. This was a really helpful project to help remind me of my creativity that I do have in there if I am given a selection of sounds, I'm given some parameters, and I just have to make something as good as I possibly can. In the time frame that we have, of course. We created really, really different songs, and we both created stuff that we don't normally do. So this video is a breakdown of the track that I made, and there's one on Jack's channel of his track that he made. And if you check out both videos, you can get the free preset packs that are included in the descriptions of the videos. Jack, thanks so much for coming on here. I had a great time working with your presets, and I'm really excited to go through and break down this session. So Jack gave me a group of some awesome analog sounding presets built for Serum. I had a selection of 12 sounds to go through and use. That's it. And it really allowed me to focus my creativity and make something cool. I was trying to really showcase all of these presets. I think I was able to use one of each preset in some small way throughout this track, and I ended up creating a kind of UK garage style-ish track. I've really been inspired by some of the kind of future garage acts that are out there right now. One is a smaller artist, his name's O'Flynn. He put out this album with another artist named Fraser Ray a couple years ago called Shimmer, and I've just been bumping that a lot. It's really like futuristic, it's melodic, yet it's quirky and goes in all these different directions. And that's just been something that was on my mind and kind of inspired me for this beat. A couple other groups that inspired this would be a Bicep, Over Mono, these kind of breakbeat UK garage kind of acts. So that's kind of the sound that I was going for in this track. It's a bit all over the place. I was doing a lot of sound design in it, so we're gonna go through and break this down. But yeah, where should we start?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to see where the different sounds came into this. Particularly, I want to talk about your use of reverb in this, and I want to talk about your modulation, because you've done some really nice, quite subtle modulation, and I'd love to see how you got at some of that. So yeah, why don't we just you can take me through from the start. There's so much to see here.
Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna start at the top, and then I can start breaking some stuff down or whatever. So cool.
Yeah, let's do it. Got some great modulation in there, like the little tail end of that kind of siren lead that you had. Is that just a volume with an LFO?
So this is the one keys patch. You see it's the mellow saw patch here in Serum, and there's no modulation or anything happening over the course of the envelope of the sound itself. But I loved how analog it sounded, and I just wanted to throw a little bit of make it feel like a little bit of like a DJ kind of spin to it. I don't know. So I just did this little bit of a tremolo, and let's take a listen to that. I also have a reverb or a reverse throw into it as well. You can see that that tremolo, and then I think it gets sent a little bit more to a reverb towards the end, and I can go through and talk about some automation and stuff. But yeah, so that just increases in intensity right there.
Gotcha. and you're modulating the speed, like the rate on the tremolo as well, I guess.
Yeah, let me add a lane for all these. So yeah, this is all the automation that's happening at that moment. We have the tremolo getting turned on, then we have the rate that's changing, and then we have it getting sent to a reverb as well.
See, this is what I really like about what you've done here, because traditionally in the kind of tracks that I was talking about, those kind of like retro pop and synthwave styles,
Yeah.
you might have a bit of automation, but sounds generally remain quite static.
Yeah.
So when you're taking like one of these analog sounds and you're throwing an automated tempo changing tremolo, you just take that sound and bring it straight into like the present day. It's great.
Yeah, I think that's what why I said like something about the DJ thing. I just wanted it to feel like a little bit performative right there, you know what I mean? It's very sound design heavy.
The sound that feels like the most kind of straight up is the organ that you're just using in, I mean, you got, like it's like a classic, well, it's like a house organ that you've got there.
Yeah, let me play this like kind of bass group back real quick. I put that organ sound in the bass group or whatever just because it was kind of interacting with these other low end elements and playing off of them, even though it's not a bass instrument. But so yeah, this is kind of what I have going on, kind of as a main melody. Super simple. I'm not
it's
even
so cheeky.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's like corny in a good way.
Yeah.
No automation going on here or anything, just static. Then it gets doubled with a bass later on.
And that's just the same patch.
It's the same patch, and then I think I just turned the other oscillator off or whatever just to make it all sub, and just rolled off some highs, just doing some side chain and a small bit of overdrive to get in some of those extra harmonics. If I didn't have that overdrive, it's not doing a ton.
Yeah, and that's really going to help it cut through on smaller speakers and mobile phones and that sort of thing.
Then I just did a little bit of a dip to help it sit with the kick a bit better. So this is kind of the A section of the song, so to speak. Then we kind of break it down a little bit. So there's like the next section of the song. So let's break that down a little bit.
There's a few things in there I'd love to ask you about. The main one that I'm interested in is you got this little offbeat. It's like an upper mid-range offbeat kind of stab, and it's got a kind of upward envelope on it.
Okay.
That one.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. This is your one patch called Piano Pad. And the one thing I noticed, if I try to play it back, the length of the note that I would play determines if there's like reverb on it or not. So I noticed this. I was playing around with the sound, and I noticed that your reverb is kind of modulated by this LFO or whatever.
Yeah.
I noticed that sometimes when I would play the whole note, the reverb would like sustain. Sometimes when I would like play a really short note, the reverb would get cut off at the end. So I just kind of played with this and did some really short notes in some sections.
Gotcha. Well, a great way to use it.
There's even a little bit of that swing there.
Yeah.
I have this, even though it looks like it's pretty straight on from a time perspective, I have like a groove set to this MIDI file. So like there's a little bit of a swing going on. Same thing with the drums, as we could break down. This isn't even like modulation, but it's just kind of built into the sound, the amount of reverb. Yeah, as we get back into this, I want to break down this little transition from the kind of breakdown section back into the beat. So we have this going on. So the one thing there going on is there's like a bit of a swell arpeggio kind of thing. And this is your one bass instrument. And it has just like a crazy reverb on it. And it's being used as this ARP that kind of builds in intensity over time.
Gotcha. It reminds me of there's a Sound Toys plugin called Crystallizer that gives you an effect.
Yeah, it does feel like a crystallizer patch. So that's going on. Then let's jump back into the beat.
Yeah, so why don't we, I'd love to take a look at what you're doing with the drums there.
Let's open up the drum group. I made this drum break in 30 minutes. Made this on stream, and it's very simple. So let's solo the break. So that's the main break there. Let's build it back up from the bottom. So kick. This kick has a bit of a shaker sound built into it.
Yeah. Right.
And it just matched the swing exactly how I wanted it. Then we get onto some like snares, just 2 snares. No processing, just going straight to reverb. We have a reverse rim shot that's being added. I'm gonna loop this as we build it. Cool. Then get onto some cymbals. Then we have some extra cymbals that are just coming in here and there. Just a little bit of an audio file loop, something from like a Native Instruments machine pack, and I just chopped it up and kind of reversed it.
Yeah, nice.
We get a little bit of a tambourine coming in as well. And then the final little thing is, as the kick comes in, I have a little bit of noise coming in as well. So this noise has a gate on it, and it's mapped to the kick.
Okay. Things like that really make, like, that's where you get your character, you know?
Yeah.
Just little subtle things. Even the tambourine that you played back there is way, way back in the mix. And it's the sort of thing that actually, you know, a casual listener, you might not necessarily pick up on it, but you will feel it. You know, you will get a bit of a feeling of extra swing, extra rhythm, extra kind of energy that you're getting from that.
That's the thing that I'm always trying to do in my productions, and something you specifically hear a lot of in these styles is you hear this texture that helps to fill the cracks between like these sample instruments that I'm using. So like I could have built this beat just with these 3 elements: kick, snare, and hats. It would sound like this. That's okay, but I just wanted a little more crunch and a little more stuff in between those cracks, you know what I mean? And if I then go ahead and solo the exact opposite of all those sounds, we have the reverse rim, we have this little hat loop I showed you, have the tambourine, and that crackle. This is what that sounds like.
Is that a big spring reverb you got there on something? Yeah. Is it on a rim or? Love that.
That is actually built into this sample. And
okay.
And I love the sound of it. So that's why I ended up using another spring reverb on some other elements in the track, and we can get to that later. But I just love that sound. It reminded me of just some like dub reggae track or something, and I was like, I gotta fit this in here somewhere. But yeah, I love to kind of blend between these samples and like the textural kind of loop sounds or whatever, because sometimes I hear a track and I'm like, okay, I can tell we just went through and boom bam, hit some drum pads and made a beat, and it sounds great, and it's like functional or whatever, but I love the little bit of ear candy that you get with these extra samples and stuff.
For me, it's about the feeling. You know, like a good track, you know, especially if it's like a kind of dance oriented track, it's got to make you feel something or you're not going to want to move to it, you know? And those are the things that you nailed it when you said functional. Yeah, you can make a beat that does the job really quickly, but if you want to actually put some feeling and character into it, then that's where you got to spend the time just playing around with something that makes it a bit more unique.
To that end, these samples that I'm using, this, like, say this, that little loop right there, even that little thing has been warped, and it has this like groove added into it as well. So they're all sitting in the same pocket, in the same like amount of swing and everything like that. So yeah, every little element I'm adding here is ultimately helping to give you the right feeling of the beat.
Yeah, perfect.
Is there anything else you want to check out on the drums? I have a couple other like samples that come on throughout, like this extra tambourine and such.
Gotcha. Stuff just really helps to kind of give the track a lift and kind of define as you move from one section to another, you know?
This tambourine, for instance, at this section, it has a little bit of filter mod on it.
Yeah, great.
And one more right here.
Yeah. Oh, just little stuff like that. You know, like, I know it's a short track, but when I listened to this, I wasn't bored for a second. You know, like
exactly.
that's what you aim for, I think. Like, you've done a great job with that.
Because that's what I always fear. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, another 4 bars of this.
Yeah.
Another 8 bars of this.
Yeah,
and we keep going here.
Yeah.
I want to go to this little section about this moment of the track where we kind of do a fake stop and then like back into the beat. Let's take a listen to that real quick. Yeah, this track has a lot of little kind of sparkles and little things throughout that just create these small sound design moments. You know, when you come away from the track, I don't know, are there melodies that you remember? I'm not really sure. It's very like sporadic or whatever, but I just thought it was kind of fun and quirky. Like there's all these different little melodic ideas going on. Maybe it's like too much at once. I'm not sure, but I think it's fun and interesting.
I really like that about it. Again, like as a kind of, to me, I'll have to see if I can send you some examples of the kind of tracks that I'm talking about that I remember hearing from like early 90s. But that kind of genre, that kind of electronica is sort of defined by being quite busy. Like it's not just got like one big hook that it keeps coming back to it over and over again, but you do have little melodic bits and pieces that are in themselves quite catchy that just pop up here and there.
Yeah.
I like it. It's got a lot of character.
Yeah, that's when I listen to like Aphex Twin, Square Pusher or whatever, like you hear these like hear things that you just they just come once and they might go and you never hear it again in the track. That's fun.
Yeah, 100%. And it encourages a repeat listen.
Yeah,
you know,
I hope so. I'll run through and I'll just give you a quick like soloing of all of these different things that just kind of come once or whatever, these little fillers or whatever. So for instance, your Carpenter bass, which I love that.
Yeah,
I love this sound. And what real quick, what was the inspiration for this bass?
I mean, if you've ever seen any of the classic John Carpenter films, like I think my favorite score that he ever did, like John Carpenter's a film director. He directed the original The Thing, he did the original Halloween, he did Assault on Precinct 13. And his roster is like impressive, but he also scored a lot of his early films, and his scores have just got the most amazing analog synth lines. And so this bass was inspired by him, basically, and the sounds from those movie scores. So it's a big, rich
it has so much
bass.
Weight to it, you know?
Yeah, it's enormous.
So I just love this, and I was trying to do a thing where I didn't want to overuse this sound because I could have actually built a track like with this just as the bass, but something about how like big and weighty it is. I actually ended up just using it as a bit of like an effect. So you hear as the track goes on here, this is probably one of the heavier sections of the track. Just kind of jumps in there for a second.
It's like a stab.
That only comes in a few times. This only comes in a few times.
And that's the piano pad again, just on a lower register.
Very low note. Yeah, because I would imagine the register you would use this in is like around there. Then I have this little thing. Just a little bit. This disco sparkles patch. These are all in a group that's just called fills, because they don't really have any motif type of thing going on.
They just pop up. That's a nice one.
Yeah, and this one especially, I couldn't find the exact track, but it reminds me heavily of an Aphex Twin track, one of the more ambient tracks.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, but yeah, I couldn't name it.
So I love this sound because it just had a bit of this
unless it's flim.
Yeah, maybe it had a bit of this like chirpiness to it with all that resonance or whatever, but it also sounded kind of beautiful and ambient. And I have a just a bit of a filter on it that opens up over time. I had a fun time with this sound in particular because the way that, it's mono and it's like legato and all that. So the way that it just kind of, if I was playing a note down here.
Sure, you're getting that re-trigger.
Exactly. I love how it re-triggers and it just like steals that note. And you could hear that right in this little phrase.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about the reverbs that you've used in this, because you mentioned that you use that spring reverb. Is that kind of your main reverb for the track?
I will say that I think a lot of the reverb actually comes just from the stacking of all these different synth presets together that have reverb on them. I don't think I touched them or whatever. So I think that builds it up quite a bit and has a lot of ambience. So if I were to, let me just mute the drums real quick and let's listen to these elements, say in this section, no drums. All the external reverb that's going on. Yeah, all this external reverb is just this. Pretty small amount. I think a lot of it is just the sounds
coming out of the Serum. Okay.
So like if this is one of the motifs. That does a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of ambience. Then this patch has a ton on it.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a little bit of that tremolo at this point in the song. So the culmination of those two sounds and then say this element.
Yeah, okay.
And then one more, I have this disco sparkle lead, which is like a very detuned lead. I'm just using it as a bit of, again, like an effect. This is going to the spring reverb a little bit.
Gotcha. So it's something that I'd never picked up on, but so this kind of music, the early Aphex and that kind of thing, was in some ways defined by what hardware was available to kind of bedroom producers at the time. And there was a lot of people using a reverb unit, like it's called a MIDI verb, like a Alesis MIDI verb, or a quadriverb was the other one. And you can pick these up for like under £100 now. They're really, there's loads of them knocking around if you go on eBay. But they had quite a particular sound, and it's quite a kind of dense and not particularly subtle reverb, but it really, it really became a part of the sound of that time. And listening to this, I was really interested to hear what kind of reverb you were using, because it kind of had a similar character. And it's really interesting that you're just using the one that I put on those patches in Serum. And it's funny, like hearing these sounds in a different context makes me hear the onboard reverb in quite a different way that you get in Serum. And it does have a lot of
Exactly.
that quality. It's quite dense. It's working really nicely.
Yeah, like you say, it is a dense sound. It's a very like soft kind of enveloping kind of reverb. You know what I mean? It's pretty like diffused or whatever the term is.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think, yeah, just the culmination of all those different synth layers, they help to kind of boost that reverb level up, so to speak. Because if I take a look at this point in the song that we just played back, if I look at the sends to that reverb, which is send B, you can see there's only like 3 things sent to it. Yeah, and it's been a while since, like, often I actually pull up these Serum patches in other soft synths or whatever, and I just turn the reverb off and send it to my own.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Here, because I had a sense that, like, okay, well, these sounds were crafted in a certain way for a certain style or something like that. I just kind of wanted to keep most of that integrity there. And just, if I had to control the reverb in some sense, I would just kind of, there's side chain coming from the kick. So that's going to control some tails and help the drums punch through and stuff like that. So yeah, I wasn't worried about just letting that reverb just kind of sit there and be hot. Yeah. Is there anything else that we want to look at in the breakdown of this track? Yeah, just everything about this like pack of presets was just like super fun to work with, and to take kind of those big weighty analog sounds and use them in a completely different fashion. Whereas, the pack that I gave over to you were these more hard-edged, like digital high frequency, like crunchy kind of sounds. You know what I mean? Very different preset packs here.
Did you have any preconceptions about what sort of a track you thought your presets that you gave to me might be well suited to make?
I just was going off of presets that I often use in some of my productions to create like heavy, big things. And also, I am not as much of a sound designer, so I was just going for sounds that I knew I could make effectively. I don't know if I can make as strong of a bass sound that has this like whoomp to it or whatever, with this nice like filter envelope on it and stuff like that. But I do know how to make a detuned, like comb filtered kind of lead sound or whatever. So
there's some really technical stuff going on in the presets that you sent me, and particularly I was very grateful for the macros that you put in almost every patch, just as a kind of grab and go thing to just reach for. I made quite a lot of use of that.
This is not exactly a track I was expecting to make, but I just kind of had this kind of garage thing on my mind, and it felt like a really good challenge at the right time from like the drum beat perspective, trying to build up that kind of groove and then take these analog synth sounds and kind of make them fit into that style. And while I created something that was a bit of a paint at the wall kind of thing, like making a Jackson Pollock, I think it's really fun from a sound design perspective, and I'm excited to have the demo sit here at the end of the video and show it off.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I think what's been nice for me is hearing all of these sounds that I made with one particular style of music in mind being used in a completely different way, but still sounding pretty analog. I mean, it sounds to me a lot like the kind of music that was being made in the early 90s by people who only had analog gear to work with. So yeah, that was great. I mean, I don't know if it was like this when you sent your sounds to me for me to make a track. I wasn't expecting a beat like this to come back, and I love it. Like, you've actually tapped into a sound that I was particularly, I love what's going on in garage at the moment, particularly, as you say, artists like Overmono, Bicep. There's a few people really smashing it at the moment from the UK and Ireland. But I also really like electronica and a lot of the sounds, in fact, that you've managed to put together from those presets in this composition really remind me of kind of like early 90s UK electronica, which is, we're talking like early Aphex Twin, early Warp Records, Brain Dance Records. And by kind of marrying that up with a slightly more modern beat, I think you've done something really nice.
Your presets, what are the kind of sounds that you would expect a producer to, make with this kind of pack of presets that you created?
So when I created the pack, I was actually thinking about, there's been a wave of kind of future retro pop music out recently. Artists like The Weeknd, one of the recent Taylor Swift albums, that Kid Laroi and Justin Bieber track, Harry Styles. All these artists are doing a lot with very analog kind of synth sounds in their mixes. So these presets, I think, would lend themselves well to a production like that, but also anything kind of synth wave. You know, I've had a lot of people download the pack who are making that kind of music, and it definitely fits really, really well for that. So I was pleasantly surprised to hear you not only take these presets and twist them into a way that I hadn't necessarily thought you would, but also to work in a style that I really, really like. Like, I've been doing a lot of pop music recently, but my next kind of wave of videos is going to be a lot more referencing my kind of UK rave and garage and techno breakbeat roots and a bit of jungle as well. So I'm kind of really looking forward to diving into that sound. So the fact that you've gone there with these presets is kind of fortuitous. Good. I think I love it. So yeah, I can't wait to get stuck in. Thanks for doing this project with me. It's been brilliant.
It's been really fun to kind of switch gears and be forced to kind of work in a box. And I recommend this to like any producer or composer or songwriter out there, to put parameters around your work once in a while and see what kind of crazy stuff it gets you to do.
Yeah, 100%. This whole thing being constrained in that way actually made me feel a lot more creative. And that track just, you know, the one that I made just came out in 3 hours. Didn't feel like work at all. I never had to stop and think, oh, what am I going to do now? And I never spent hours scrolling through like 50 different bass sounds.
Exactly.
Because I only had one. And it was, you know, and you just make it work. It's great.
Exactly. Thank you so much to Jack for these presets. If you're looking for some of that retro futuristic pop production, go check him out. He's a super talented producer, and I know you guys would get along well. He's a super awesome dude. Now here's the full demo of my track.